This week, I sat down with Bret the Hitman Hart about a huge honor, not just for him, but his entire family's legacy. Sting returns at AEW's WrestleDream. Plus, WWE may be out a world champion, but may also be suffering from a Y2J problem. All that and lots more coming up on McGuire on Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself
with Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about? Yeah. Well, the professional wrestling.
Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
Welcome to what I like to call Western Canada's wrestling radio show, maybe even all of Canada's, and wherever you are around the world. We got a lot of people that download this on podcast as well, and I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. This is McGuire on Wrestling. Dave Meltzer going to be here this week, and a conversation with Bret the Hitman Hart. Got to see the Hitman over the weekend, and a huge honor was bestowed, not just to him, but really to his entire family, as the city of Calgary did something pretty awesome we'll talk about in the 5 count in just a bit. If you are following us on social media, you may already know what I'm talking about. You may have also seen a cool picture from the weekend. Got to surprise Bret with a little piece of merchandise, and this piece of the conversation you're going to hear is actually part of our annual special that we do called the Holiday Hullabaloo. This is a small portion of it, but it's a pretty big portion too, because it was a pretty big honor. It's also, after doing some research, what I believe, and I'm going to double check with Dave Meltzer about this coming up, but I believe could be the first of its kind ever when it comes to involving a pro wrestler and city landmarks or world landmarks. So it's a pretty cool story we'll have for you in a few minutes. Between the 5 count, the conversation with Bret, and of course talking to Dave on the way in just a bit. But AEW's WrestleDream took place this past Saturday night. It was a long show. It was a late show, and I'm not going to lie, it was a show that I had to watch the next morning because I've had enough stuff going on this weekend. Got to go back to Calgary with the alternate commentary tables, Mitch and Dimitri. If you missed that episode of their podcast, The Alternate Commentary Table, you can check it out, celebratewrestling.com, and look for the ACT episode 110, I believe it is. Yeah, it's Daddy's Return or Dimitri's Last Stand. I love those dual title episodes, but either way, a great time catching up with them, and we talked about all sorts of things, including some of the stories that are making the waves this week. Yeah, there's a lot of scuttlebutt about a big name returning to WWE. Do they even have a world heavyweight champion right now? Because it's looking more and more like Seth Rollins' injury is legit. And where does that place everything else in the future, right? It could be a situation where we have something great happen for a new face. It could be a case where we see an established legend get one more run with the championship. And speaking of established legends, we're also going to talk a little bit about John Cena's future. Are we witnessing another retirement run we didn't even see coming with AJ Styles? And we'll cap the show off with some of your feedback to AEW's WrestleDream as well. But first, let's get through some of those big stories from the past 7 days. We call it the 5 count.
You want to hear the breaking news?
Well, the Hart family has made history of a different type as what is believed to be the first landmark to be named officially after a pro wrestler. And by that, I mean a bridge in Calgary now bears the name of the Stu Hart Memorial Bridge. The bridge itself is on Highway 8, which crosses the Elbow River just outside of Calgary on the southwest corner. And according to Google Maps, is an 11-minute drive from the famous Hart House, of course, where Stu and the family was raised back in the day. If you're curious, ever in the area, and want to make the trip yourself, I've actually put up a little map up on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page. It's a nice little drive, actually. Be a fun thing to add to a trip to Calgary. Again, we'll talk to Bret the Hitman Hart in just a few minutes, all about this special honor for his family. As she was set to appear at Winnipeg's Rumble in the Burt, where we suspected that Mercedes Moné may break Ultimo Dragon's record, it made a little more sense that she would go for the highest number of most simultaneous championships on AEW TV, and that's what happened at WrestleDream, defeating Mina Shirakawa for the ROH Women's Championship. She now is 11 belts Monet, but will she be 12? It'll be more interesting to see what happens with this streak and also the involvement of a Canadian promotion. Rumble in the Burt took place on Sunday night in the Peg. Well, speaking of Winnipeg, could one of their favorite sons be returning home to WWE? A new report from the Wrestling Observer newsletter says that Chris Jericho may very well have his eyes set on a John Cena-like retirement run in WWE in the coming year. What was interestingly noted this past week is with the announcement of the Chris Jericho Cruise, the Rockin' Rager at Sea, that no AEW talents were booked to be a part of the trip. Now, in the past, AEW matches have even occurred on the boat. However, not a single AEW talent booked for this time around. It's only fueling the speculation that he could be making his way back to WWE, maybe even as soon as the Royal Rumble or earlier. Japanese wrestling fans are all ears and potentially eyes when it comes to the future of Shinsuke Nakamura, who posted a bit of a cryptic tweet when it came to talking about his potential future in the wrestling business. While he said he had no eyes on retirement at this time, people also took notice of what happened during a show in Japan as Nakamura did a lot of the mannerisms and even repeated the catchphrase of one Tanahashi. While AEW does have a relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling, there is talk that the match could take place at Wrestle Kingdom 20 this coming January. If that's the case, it could be interesting to see what happens, as Nakamura has been allowed to wrestle other Japanese shows as of late with his WWE deal. Or, should his contract expire, that could also mean he moves forward and does whatever he wants to do. Now, one of the reasons why all sides might just choose to get along on this is because if it happens, not only would it be during Tanahashi's retirement run, but it would also be on the exact date of the 21st anniversary of the first singles match between Tanahashi and Nakamura, which took place January 4th, 2005. Shinsuke recently returned to WWE TV under his babyface character, dropping the Samurai Shinsuke gimmick. And some more news coming out of WWE's trip to Japan this past week. Rhea Ripley reportedly suffered an injury, possibly a broken nose, after Raquel Rodriguez threw Io Sky onto Ripley. Also, AJ Styles made what many believe will be his final appearance as a wrestler in Japan during the tour, as he was given a fitting send-off by the roster after the show. And Dominic Mysterio, in a continued tribute to Eddie Guerrero, showed up donning a mask eerily similar to that of Black Tiger. Guerrero wrestled as the second Black Tiger in 1993. Well, still to come, as promised, a conversation with the Hitman Bret Hart about the new bridge named after his father, and you'll get to hear from Bret telling some fun stories and whether or not he thinks there'll ever be a landmark for him in the city of Calgary. Plus, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and your feedback when it comes to AEW's WrestleDream, all on the way.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing. Right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it. We hate it. The alternate commentary table, ACT. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts.
Sure. It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Dave, it's been a busy week. There's been a lot of stories that have been coming up. The first one we have to get down to the bottom of, Seth Rollins' injury. Is it for real this time or not?
Yeah, it is. It is for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, he's having surgery. You don't have surgery for a fake injury.
Well, that's...
If you remember the other one he didn't have surgery.
Right. He was just kind of limping around with the fake cast on or whatever. So,
yeah.
Well, either way, I mean, good for him for getting one over on us the first time. But unfortunately, now it seems to be a lot.
Did he
more
really get one over? I mean, you have to really not pay attention to say he got one over because it was everywhere that it was what it was. I mean,
but a lot of people got duped, though, the first time. A lot of people.
I mean, they did, but that's because they didn't pay attention. Because, I mean, even the cash-in was well known. Like within 2-3 days from the injury, I think the only question was, is he going to cash in as planned, or are they going to delay it to fool people, or to make people look wrong? And they didn't even bother to do that, which they shouldn't have. I thought it was the right idea. So, but to say that, I guess it duped people, but it only duped people who weren't paying attention, because if you're paying attention, it was all, when I said, like, when it was over, all I heard was like, see, it was like, oh, everyone knew anyway. So, whatever.
Fair enough.
But this one's legit. He's having surgery. And as far as, how long he'll be out, nobody knows. If you hear that it's going to be any time length, until he has the surgery, no one's going to know.
And then it all depends on his rehab and how quickly he recuperates and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, they'll figure out everything that's right and wrong. And from there, we'll have a lot better idea of what's going on. But they'll probably keep that quiet, I'm going to guess, because often they don't like to give real things because they want the surprise return. So, like they might say he's out for 9 months when it's really 6, so people aren't ready when he comes back. Sometimes they've done that many times, actually. But it's going to be months, and all plans are changed. Everything, Science Main Events changed. Survivor Series got to change. WrestleMania, I don't know. But probably, based on the angle that they shot, I think WrestleMania's got to change too.
That's the timeline that everybody's going by, right? Is will he or won't he be ready by WrestleMania? And
yeah, I think so.
We won't know, right? So
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, well, another interesting tidbit came courtesy of a Wrestling Observer, and that was an update on the Chris Jericho situation. Now, we saw the release last week. In fact, I was hanging out with the Jericho Oceanic Cruise champion in Mojibari over the weekend here, but the Jericho Cruise kind of surprised some people with not having any AEW talents at all on the thing, and now there's some talk that a retirement run, much like John Cena's, could be in line for Jericho in WWE. What's the latest you have on that for us?
It's everything's up to Jericho. It's like whatever he wants to do, and whatever that is, I'm sure he's not going to tell anyone until it happens. But yeah, from a WWE standpoint, the idea of doing a retirement tour, they like the idea. So could happen. From their standpoint, it could happen. They would like that to happen. And the question is, does he want to do a retirement tour, or does he want to go longer? So, there's so many questions. Does he want to go back to AEW? Does he want to, just go, okay, this is it, and why not retire in WWE? He could do that. So the ball's in his court completely right now.
Let's go down the line here, because you and I talked about this last week about the potential for these retirement runs becoming a big thing. Obviously, we've seen buckets of money for John Cena. I don't know if anybody will reach the financial level that John Cena's has, just because the fact it's John Cena and there's so much lineage.
Yeah, nobody in the next few years. No. Roman Reigns, but that's probably. I don't know how many years away that is. Could be 5, could be less, could be longer. But he would be the only one that would be at this level. I know that the DC show, they're expecting the biggest arena gate in the history of the company. So ticket prices are so through the roof that they didn't sell out, even though everyone and their mother wanted to go. They had, I think it was 50,000 plus people wanting to buy tickets. And the average person's probably buying 3. But the fact is that so many people that went in line to get tickets when they saw the prices went back out, because they were not sold out right away, and they could have sold out in minutes for that one. But people got scared by the prices. So in the end, it's like they're going to get enough people at the prices, and the number, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to be well north of 4 million. I know that.
That's crazy. That is just crazy. Again, good on them if the money's there to be made, but I still miss the days of being able to think I could afford to go to any WWE show I wanted to, and it seems to be less and less these days. But
yeah.
Then again, this is the business. In my side with the country radio job, Alan Jackson just announced his final show. Tickets went on sale for that, and the lowest price ticket you could get was somewhere in like the $500-$600 mark Canadian. And this is like in the big football stadium in Nashville, and they're talking about like nosebleeds. So that's going to be.
The Cena's tickets aren't that expensive in the sense that, and it's an arena. So, but because I think that you could get in front for under 300. Right. You can't now.
No, not with the resales.
Yeah, the last time I saw a price that you could get in was $830, but that's because the cheaper tickets all sold immediately.
Well, it'll be wild to see, and of course there will be ancillary merchandise that comes from this. I'm sure there will be event exclusive, one of a kind stuff. I mean, even the autographed cards these days, these one of ones, that they put out there, they just go for stupid money. So while for a lot of the average folks it may be out of reach, there are people that are willing to spend the money, and TKO and WWE are finding a way to get their hands on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Unreal. Well, sticking with the retirement theme here, before we get into AEW's WrestleDream, we're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. Dave, we've seen AJ Styles talk about the fact that next year is going to be his last year. He hasn't given a date or a specific timeline just yet, but even on the last few shows here in the Japan run, they kind of made a point, and it sounded like that was his last time he's ever going to be in Japan. So could the Styles retirement be sooner than we think?
I could see it in the first half of the year, because they'd probably, I don't know. I mean, they're going to go back to Japan next year, most likely.
Yeah.
And probably late in the year. And if that's the case and he's not on it, that tells you that he's probably not planning on being around late. I mean, it could be WrestleMania. That's probably, if they're going to do that, the fitting end, or they could just do a Saturday Night's Main Event or like what they're doing with Cena and what they did with Goldberg, or put it on a pay-per-view show. It doesn't have to be WrestleMania. I know when it was Bill Goldberg, I remember talking to people there about, so it'll probably be WrestleMania. And it's like, no, we don't need to do it at WrestleMania. We need to do it probably a different show. I could see that mentality of WrestleMania is going to sell no matter what. But it'd be cool to go out at a big stadium in front of 60,000 people rather than an arena. And if they were going to do it, I would think it could be Atlanta, just because he's from Georgia.
Could it be WrestlePalooza?
Whatever they want to do for Atlanta, I think. I mean,
our next year's WrestlePalooza is going to be as big of a thing as they tried with the first one?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it was as big as they expected. I mean, I certainly saw no press releases or anything on how great it did. I mean, I know that internationally it was fine. It was above normal. It was one of the bigger ones internationally.
We will see how she shakes down. Of course, lots going on in the world of wrestlers that are retiring. Well, wrestlers that are far from retirement, although sometimes the way they work, I wonder. We're going to talk about AEW's WrestleDream now. Of course, that took place on Saturday night in St. Louis, and some surprises, some not big surprises. One thing that happened here, and I was wondering, as much as we were hyping it and talking to our friends at Winnipeg Pro Wrestling, I mean, if the record was going to be broken in Winnipeg with the Winnipeg Pro Wrestling Championship, I mean, that would be cool by them, obviously, but I was wondering if they were ever going to try and figure out a way to work some sort of AEW or ROH title into this thing, and we saw that happen last night. Mercedes now has technically broken Ultimo Dragon's record for most simultaneous championships, and did so with the ROH Women's Championship here. Is this something that snuck up on them, or do you think this is kind of the plan all along?
I think it's the plan all along, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing that happened was because she was booked in Mexico City, they didn't want to advertise she's going for the record because it would give away that she's not losing the belt in Mexico City.
Right.
So because of that, they did not, until the match in Mexico City was over, they didn't push the idea that she's going for the record the next day. It just the nature of everything, because she's got all those belts and there's going to be some title defenses. It's kind of hard to have a 4-week build, but it should have had a 4-week build. But, so, it kind of happened. It's like it happened on this show, but it was such a last minute thing that I don't think it had the impact that it would have had, had they been building up this specific date as where she's breaking the record. Because, we all assumed it was in Winnipeg, and I guess it makes a lot more sense to be on an AEW pay-per-view show than in Winnipeg.
Right. No offense to our friends in Winnipeg, obviously, but I mean, to not have it on their TV would have boggled my mind in a lot of ways, and that's why I thought, if anything, we were going to get the 10th one, but then the Denmark show came up, and that happened, and so when I saw Mexico, I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then what happened at WrestleDream. So, I mean, it's a thing now. I was guesting on our other show, the alternate commentary table, and the guys and I were talking about this yesterday. The way I see it is this is a perfect build. So let's say she beats Statlander, finally gets the women's championship. This sets up Mercedes, Toni Storm down the line or whatever, because, Mercedes couldn't beat Toni the first time. So what makes her think she can do it again and keep her championship? With 9 outside championships right now, right? Because she's got the TBS and then the Ring of Honor. So she's got 2 within AEW. Do you think it's going to be a case where she tours all 9 and drops all 9 titles, or is it going to be a case where maybe she has to forfeit them?
I mean, in theory, like sometime, in the next 12 months, she should go everywhere and lose it back. Yeah.
That's what I think has to happen, right? Because that to me is the way she manages to give back, and it elevates all those talents, right? But at the same time, I mean, that's a lot of belts, that's a lot of shows, and that's a lot of dates that are going to impede on her already busy schedule. So I'm just curious to know, and maybe we'll find out after. I'll talk to the guys in Winnipeg after we see what happens this weekend, but it'll be interesting nevertheless. Well, it's definitely a packed show. We're going to take a quick pause, and we're going to go through the rest of the AEW WrestleDream card and stories coming out of that show with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. This is McGuire on Wrestling. Hang on.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Legends and Champions is your weekly fix to go old school, looking at the classic world of professional wrestling. From Hulk Hogan to the Hitman Bret Hart to the Icon Sting to the total package Lex Luger. We have it all each and every week on Legends and Champions, part of the Celebrate Wrestling Network. And it's available on a Wednesday with me, Andy Evans. See you there.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
We are back with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Before we jump into WrestleDream, Dave, did you get to watch the one last table match between the Hardys and the Dudleys?
I did not, no.
No. Okay. Look it up, find it, because it's something else. And, I'm not a huge fan of the garbage matches to begin with, but I thought that, both teams, considering their age and what they've put their bodies through the years, and especially with Devon, let's not forget, Devon said he was done, right? I thought it was an interesting, fun match, and there was some legit emotion there at the end with the retirement. But let's move on back to AEW's WrestleDream, and I guess we'll start from the top and work our way back here. And the top was interesting. Was it the right move to have Moxley and Darby after the World Championship match at the end?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I think it was promoted. It was promoted the hardest. Had the longest build, it culminated a storyline that went back, to the beginning of the year. So, yeah, I think so. They could have called it a lights out match. But then someone brought up that, but then if Darby wins a lights out match, it doesn't count in his record. So they couldn't do, I guess they wanted him to have one on his record. But, that wasn't the problem. The problem was that Amazon Prime cut it off, but that's a different issue.
Oh, it did get cut off. I haven't heard about this.
Amazon Prime cut it off at the top of the hour. They made a mistake, and so their customers did not get to see. I think they got the first couple of minutes. It was like one of those worldwide tapings in the 80s. Tony, we got to go, but they didn't even tell them that. So.
Because I watched on ppv.com. I watched it this morning, actually.
Yeah, they didn't have any problems. Amazon had problems. Comcast had problems. A different problem. They got hurt in places that they were, not counting on being hurt at. I think that the number might be down. Well, it probably will be down.
Do they do refunds on that, you think? Or what happens when you lose out on the show?
Well, Comcast, the problem was ordering it. Once you ordered it, you were okay. The problem was ordering it, so there's no refunds involved there. As far as Amazon Prime, they were giving refunds if people asked. Maybe they've got it all fixed, but I don't know, and just say, hey, look, you can watch it now. But they definitely were giving refunds last night.
Okay, that's interesting, because I did notice last night, there were a ton of highlights, especially from that last match. And normally you don't see that many highlights hit social from AEW because they want to keep the pay-per-view up. So I guess that's kind of what was going on there, but that's interesting to know. I had another show last night. I've had a very busy weekend outside of watching wrestling, but okay, let's go to the World Championship. Well, actually, let's talk about Sting for a second here. So we get Sting back in an AEW ring. Does the assist, obviously, for Darby. That's the real story here, is that Darby has managed to get the monkey of John Moxley off his back here. Some people are thinking, is this Moxley wrapping it up, or is he just going to take a break now?
No, Moxley's still around. There's nothing changing with him. He's going to be focal point of stuff, for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so back to the match then with Sting. Having him show up, this is probably a one-time thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it could happen again someday. I mean, Sting and Tony are on very good terms. I actually expected this to happen at Allin, but it didn't, and I guess he was saving it for this show.
Again, it paid off here, and it definitely was a great way to cap the show here. But Darby getting the Scorpion Deathlock submission here. Darby was on a recent interview. I think it was with Ariel Helwani, somebody who he said that he didn't have any focus or interest on winning championships. He just wanted to be the guy that's getting paid and having stuff to do on TV and everything. We've talked about it, Darby Allin in the World Championship picture before here. Do you still think that's a viable thing?
I wouldn't rule it out. It wouldn't be right now. Wouldn't be on my radar. Yeah, I wouldn't do it now. I mean, right now I think it's Adam Page, and then probably from there, the best candidates would be MJF or Kyle Fletcher. Maybe after that, Darby. Maybe depending on the lay of the land in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Well, let's go to that World Championship match then. Samoa Joe and Hangman Adam Page. Hangman coming out on top. We get a seeming heel turn now from the Ops with Samoa Joe. Do we got another match coming out of this one, you think, or are they going to move on to somebody else?
Gotta be. They wouldn't do that angle without doing Adam Page and Joe in a rematch. Maybe on TV, maybe on the next pay-per-view. I mean, he laid him out pretty good. Muscle buster on a chair and everything.
Maybe that's the path to Joe getting the championship this time around. And again, they managed to squeeze another month out of this sort of thing here. We talked about this a bit last week, too, with Hangman being the money guy or the guy that works with the money guy. And then Jeff Jarrett had an interesting quote this week saying that he never met anybody quite like Adam Page, comparing him to Owen Hart. And
yeah, I saw that.
That was an interesting quote. And then I went back and listened to it on his pod, and we raised some eyebrows last week, especially you, when you made the comparison of having him around a Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart territory. But, Hangman being compared to an Owen Hart, and not to put Owen Hart as a second either. I mean, Owen, I just think never really got his time. But if it's coming from Jeff Jarrett, that's got to be a pretty fair comparison. Would you agree?
What I would say is I don't know Adam Page well enough in that way, like Jeff might know him. As a wrestler, I wouldn't compare them. I think they're very different wrestlers. As a person, I don't know Adam Page well enough to make that comparison. So I don't know.
I've always felt there's so much potential there with Adam Page to become the guy, but I haven't been 100% sold personally just yet on him being the guy. But that's personal taste as well. So I mean, it is what it is. But either way, we've had an interesting championship match out of here. Before we go with the rest of the card, what was a match for you that stood out most from this show? I always like to ask you this from every show.
Bandito and Brody King and Takeshita and Okada. I thought the match was fantastic. Right. All three tags were fantastic, but to me, that was the best match on the show. And that's the consensus from what I'm getting. My poll and everything. It's running away with it. Actually, I thought that it was balanced. I thought there was a lot of matches that would get votes, and it really is just that in the Young Bucks match, and Briscoe and Fletcher are the ones getting votes, but that one's getting way more than the other ones.
Well, and the story of that tag match, I feel like, it was for the tag team championships, but the fumble, if you want to call it that, with Okada and Takeshita, I mean, that's the real story in this thing. And I think, if anything, they're trying to build up the importance of that international or the unified championship, and having it go up against the IWGP champion. That's going to be something pretty interesting to see in the future here. We had Mercedes Moné, of course. We've already talked about that match, beating Mina Shirakawa. And then before that, it was Chris Statlander defeating Toni Storm. I mean, this made all the sense in the world to me, too. I mean, you just got the belt on Stat. We talked about how it could set up the feud for her and Mercedes down the line here, and so on and so on and so on. So the TNT Championship, Protostar Kyle Fletcher defeating Mark Briscoe. I like Mark Briscoe so much. And I like where Kyle Fletcher's going, too. But, I mean, this was the right move, right?
I know where they're going. So, I mean, Tony talked about like best of 7. So if they're doing best of 7, it's the right move. I wouldn't, with Fletcher having lost on the last pay-per-view, I think it was important for him to win on this one. So, I think it was the right move. I'd like to see Mark Briscoe get a big push and everything, but I mean, long term, Mark Briscoe's 40 in his early 40s, 40-ish. Kyle Fletcher's 26, 27 and better. So, that's the guy. I mean, he's Fletcher's a potential franchise guy. He's so good.
The Trios Championships #1 contendership was in a match here with the Hurt Syndicate defeating the Demand. MVP looking in fine form. He's actually moving pretty well. But overall here, I mean, they've tried to keep the Hurt Syndicate looking as badass as they can, but they also tried to keep them heel, and that did not work. So these guys just have the forward momentum. I guess probably having them in that trios picture is the best place they can be right now.
Because the tag team division, you got all these teams that are fantastic, and they're not. So in the trios, at least, they can be in that title picture without, and still you get all kinds of great tag team title matches.
The very believable stipulation of the $500,000 match between Jurassic Express and the Jacksons, the Young Bucks here. To be honest, I was kind of meh on this whole thing. I mean, to me, I saw Jurassic Express having to win this. They just reformed the team. There's nowhere else for this to go. But, I mean, what is the long game in this one, you think?
I think that any team that beats the Young Bucks should be in line for a tag team championship match. They'll probably, or maybe rematches. But yeah, I could see Bandito and Brody King against those guys. Maybe even on the next pay-per-view. Yeah.
And then sticking with the main card here, everyone banned from ringside. Jamie Hayter defeated Thekla. I didn't know much about this match going into it, to be 100% honest with you, because I didn't know that this was such a heated match to have everyone banned from the ring. But here we are. And again, kicked off the main show. So your thoughts on that?
The Thekla match is a good match. I mean, there was no bad matches on the show anyway, but yeah, that was a good match.
This is kind of interesting, I say, bleeding into the main show here, because we saw an overrun with the pre-show actually went into the pay-per-view. So it was kind of funny. If you were watching it live, I saw reports that people were actually seeing the last part of the Jet Speed match against FTR. Do you think that was just a timing mistake, or do you think that might be a strategy on purpose?
No, that was absolutely 100% planned. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. The idea of, and it's based on 1980s wrestling, where you get a match in the ring and, we got to go, but no, we'll keep it on the pay-per-view. And it also sets a precedent because before, in your last match on the pre-show, you knew the finish is coming 5 minutes before the end of the hour. You knew it every time. So this time they fooled you, and it's like you go in there and go, too bad for them. Things running long. We're getting a 5-minute main event, and it's like, no, you got a 12, 13-minute main event. Or not, a match, but you got 8 minutes of it went on the other show. So I thought that, and it was a good, if you're going to do it, that was a good match to do it with, because those two teams were great.
All right, well, there you have it. If you want to see Dave's thoughts on that, of course, the Wrestling Observer newsletter is where you'll find all his reviews and thoughts on that. But, Dave, we're going to have a clip that I had with Bret the Hitman Hart from this past weekend talking about the naming of a bridge in the city of Calgary after his dad, Stu Hart. It was a big thing, big honor, obviously, because, I mean, I don't hear of a lot of people outside of either like big civic figures as far as, like politicians or especially in the States, I noticed a lot of bridges and overpasses and things that are named after police officers, fallen soldiers, things like that. And
political figures. Yeah,
exactly. And so
it's funny. I can't come up with a bridge named after an athlete.
This is what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are, but I couldn't come up with one. And I think it's like a really great honor for Stu Hart. I saw they have the thing right by the bridge where it has like his timeline of his career and everything. I thought that was super cool. Born
that was for the ceremony. So I don't know if they're going to put an art install in there or not, but I mean, this has just been announced. So that's the cool thing about it. But I mean, you think of guys like, maybe Inoki in Japan or
they don't have, Inoki doesn't have a bridge named after him. I would know that. Baba doesn't have a bridge named after him. So no, I could not tell you a pro wrestler with a bridge named after him anywhere in the world. There might be someone somewhere, but I couldn't even tell you like I know there's an airport in Belfast named after George Best, who's a famous soccer player.
Right.
But that's like the only one I could think of, as far as like, an airport named after an athlete, a bridge. I could probably look something up and see if there is another one, but
I'm curious, because we just heard in Florida there, Ron DeSantis announced the Hulk Hogan trail.
There's a trail, yeah. They named a little bit of a trail after Hulk Hogan. There might be
there's probably like a Terry Funk way somewhere. I know there's statues.
There's a Terry Funk mural in Amarillo. There's a Crusher statue at a park in Milwaukee. I think there might be a Danny Hodge Park in Perry, Oklahoma, and I'm not even sure of that. I think that there might be a Danny Hodge statue or something, but Frank Gotch in Iowa, Humboldt, Iowa, maybe something. Not a bridge, though. I'm for sure it's not a bridge, but there might be something. I know for sure there's a statue of him, so I don't know if the park is named after him or anything like that, but it's not a Ric Flair anything. There's not a Luthez anything, Strangler Lewis anything. No, nothing.
Well, there you have it. The Stu Hart Bridge may be the first of its kind. Well, I'll be sure. I don't even think I took the bridge this time in my trip up there, which is, I was trying to, but just the way I get to where our Dungeon Wrestling show was, it just wasn't part of the trip. But maybe next couple weekends when I'm up there, I'll try and make the trip. But either way, Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, always a pleasure to have you here, sir. What are some things people can catch up on as far as your latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter?
Yeah, so the last issue, we had a giant Hall of Fame story, and there may be a couple more to come because I only covered the U.S. and Canadian candidates in the Hall of Fame. But that's a big, big story. And then, of course, we covered, they had last week was 3 big shows. You had the Perth show. You had the New Japan King of Pro Wrestling. You had the TNA show. There was a big Noah show as well. All the stuff on the TV ratings in the United States. It's a very, very, interesting and very significant topic when the vast majority of your revenue comes from TV and your TV ratings, when they switched formats in 18 to 49, are down 30% or more. There's nobody, with the exception of the CW in the United States with NXT, where if you look at the ratings that the show is getting today, they are worth anywhere near the money that they're paying. I mean, SmackDown is doing half of what they paid the money for. AEW, we don't know, because with AEW, we don't know the max numbers, because it was the number that they paid was for a combination of max and television. So I don't know, but just for TV alone, no way is what they're getting as TV ratings worth the money that they're getting. And like I said, SmackDown is the same way. Raw is a different issue. That's Netflix. But and Collision's, the same as Dynamite, and even worse, in the sense that, the Collision numbers are, they're down 30% from what were borderline numbers to begin with. So, yeah, when these next contracts come up, we'll see. I mean, it's obviously something more important. WWE's already got that Netflix deal. They've already got that ESPN deal. They're safe. AEW's safe through the end of 2027. But, life goes on after 2027, and you want this thing to self-sustain. And Tony's thing is he wants this thing to go on forever, long after he's gone. Be another CMLL, go through generations and generations and hit 90 years, and which is pretty tough because only one wrestling company's ever done that. Although WWE will, if they started in 1950, we're at about 75 years, they're going to hit 90 for sure.
Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. Appreciate you, sir. We'll talk to you again next week.
Okay, have a great week.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up, we do Yay Boo, your feedback to AEW's WrestleDream. But next, the Hitman, Bret Hart, on a very special piece of Hart family history being unveiled.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
CKXU-FM 88.3 in Lethbridge is Southern Alberta's true alternative radio station.
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better.
Proudly carrying McGuire on Wrestling every week.
Yeah!
If you're looking for something different to listen to,
this is gonna be a slobber knocker!
Check out our NCRA award-winning lineup of programs or stream us anytime at ckxu.com.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, if you're not new to this show, then I always nerd out a little extra harder when I get to play that music, and only ever play it when the man is joining us on the show. This past weekend, a successful return for Dungeon Wrestling in Calgary after almost a year away.
a great show, well over 1,000 in attendance, and some fantastic matches. We'll talk more about that in the future here because we do have another date coming up on the 19th. But if you want to hear some more fun about that show, head to this weekend's alternate commentary table from this past Saturday, and you can hear that on our podcast feed. Mitch, Dimitri, and myself together, and we talk about all sorts of things, including a really, really funny moment between Bret and Mitch that I may have accidentally, unintentionally facilitated. But this past week, a huge honor was bestowed upon the Hart family in memory of the patriarch Stu Hart, as the Alberta government announced that a portion of the Alberta Highway number 8, which crosses the Elbow River just southwest of Calgary, would be named the Stu Hart Memorial Bridge. This is a big deal. A lot of bridges usually named after significant figures. And so to have someone like Stu Hart immortalized this way, it meant a lot to a lot of fans, obviously the family, and I had to ask what it meant to the Hitman. So here, a clip from what's going to be part of his appearance on this year's holiday hullabaloo over the holiday season is what the Hitman had to say.
Just a couple days ago, I didn't even know this was coming, but they named a bridge after your dad.
Yeah, what a fitting thing. You know, my dad... funny enough, he just reminds me of a bridge.
Explain how.
Very just solid as a rock, big, thick, solid, like something that's immovable object. You know, it's just, and then being a path, a route, like my dad was a route to wrestling. Yeah, I just think in some ways, especially the fact that it's, you know, within spitting distance of Clearwater Beach, where we all, you know, grew up and spent our summers, you know, as a family. You know, I think it's just really fitting that it's a bridge, a gateway to, you know, to the mountains, and you know, I just know that of all the things that have come from my dad, whether it's the Order of Canada or different things, the bridge kind of strikes me as the most fitting, like that, the most, that's something that reminds me of my dad, a strong, sturdy bridge.
There's a photo of you that I saw, and I sent it back to you saying the pride on your face is immeasurable in that photo. Like, I mean, I've seen you smile for photos 1,000 times, but you know, there's a couple times that are seem a little more significant to me than others, and this seems to be one of them.
Well, it is. It's a very, you know, my dad's been passed away, I think, but you know, it's like sometimes you just think that those kind of that he'll fade from memory sometimes, and you know, how important is wrestling in the world of, you know, Canadian history and where Canada's going and stuff like that. And to think that now it's 2025 and he's being honored with a bridge just tells you that, you know, all that charity work that he did and all the things that he did, all the little things that he did, it's just for the community and as a citizen. Things that he just knew were the right thing to do. And, you know, I can remember lots of times at the wrestling, they'd pass the hat around and give all the money to somebody that was had their house burned down or something. Yeah. But my dad would do a lot of really good things, and people remember that about him. And you know, it's nice that they thought of this honor of a bridge. And like I said, I love the fact that it is a bridge and that it's you know, it leads in and out of the city, and just to me that speaks of my dad.
So how long ago did you find out this was happening? How did this come about? Like, I had so many questions. It's just like literally one day I just see, oh, there's Bret. Why is Bret at a bridge? Oh, they're naming it after Stu. Okay, this is awesome. How did this first come about?
I was contacted about 3 weeks ago. I think it was when I was in Europe, and I wasn't the best guy to contact.
Right.
Because I'm away from home and I can't really call everybody up and explain all this stuff to everybody. So it kind of kept a secret with me dealing with, you know, the city and the I'm trying to think of the department at Calgary that it was.
Transport and whatever. Yeah. Well, we'll look it up.
But yeah, I really wanted it to be I wanted it to be special, and I knew that I wasn't sure, like when I was in Europe, whether I should call everybody and make a big announcement about it, because I didn't know the details of it either, when it was going to happen or where it was going to be.
Right.
And so I kind of inadvertently kept a lid on the whole thing until, like, they assumed I've told everybody, but I haven't told anybody. And so I don't think anybody in my family knew about this huge honor until about 4 days before the event. And so, I mean, I did a good job of keeping a secret and keeping a lid on everything. But not that there needed to be. So, I mean, it all worked out. But it's a great honor for the family.
Well, it's one of those things where, like you said, the importance of wrestling can always be up for debate. People are going to do that. But, I mean, bridges normally, I've seen, you get named after, like, great, politicians or maybe soldiers or police officers, things like that, and figures in history. But I think that is a testament to the history of your family and your dad. And I think it makes all the sense in the world, to be honest. Yeah,
it's the fact that... I know my dad would be really humbled by that and would be really proud. That'd be something that would have, like, if I could tell him right now and just let him know that this happened. I think it would really mean something to him. It's the kind of thing that would have meant more to him than a lot of other things.
Yeah. Well, there's been, like you said, there's been a number of honors and tributes, and it's fascinating to see that a name like Stu Hart still gets celebrated, like you said, so long in life here. I mean, there's a photo going around, and I don't know if you've seen this, but it's a photo of you and your family today. And some people are saying that it's pretty cool to see that Bret is becoming the new Stu, where it's like a photo of Stu and all you kids, and now it's like you and all your kids and grandkids and everybody else. And I'm not saying that to be weird about it, but I mean, have you seen that, first of all? And
no, I haven't seen it yet, but I walk in pretty small footprints compared to what my dad walked in, and I do my best to emulate my dad and make him proud today. And I think he'd be happy with how I've conducted myself and just the way I've lived my life. But I've always been indebted to my dad, and it means a lot to me when people remember him and respect him. I get stopped, like when I'm walking through Safeway, by people that tell me they used to, know my dad shopping around in Safeway and tell stories about him shopping with all the carts, and he'd have about 5 or 6 carts, like a train going through Safeway. And but I remember all that stuff, and I mean, I appreciate when people tell me they remember my dad, or remember my brother Wayne or Keith, or remember the old Stampede Wrestling with the Stomper and Ed Whalen. And yeah, I mean, I cherish those memories too, and I never mind talking about them. And I'm a meet and greeter all across Calgary. Everywhere I go, whether it's whatever end of the city, it's when they see me, and I think this is a compliment, but I think most people feel comfortable coming up and talking to me about anything. And I don't mind. I actually kind of always remember my dad taking special time with fans and talking to people, and it's just something I don't mind doing.
It's something too that as a fan, I mean, I've worn a couple of them around you, but actually when you got one of your, I think it was the chalk line stuff or something came in, it was given this giant hoodie, and it's you, like, giant in the front. I don't wear it that often because it almost feels a little weird, but at the same time, when I do wear it, I've had people like stop me and be like, I watch, and they're talking to me like they're talking to you, like I remember watching him when he was just a boy growing up and watching Stu and all his boys. And so, I mean, the lineage is going to be there forever, and now to have that immortalized in a bridge is something special here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, and maybe it happens sooner than later. I don't know, but maybe we get a Bret Hart monument, something like that.
Yeah, maybe just a big giant statue, a little bigger than the Calgary Tower.
You want to stay humble, though, right?
Pink.
Yeah, pink and black.
Pink and black.
Yeah.
Gold belt on it.
Lots of tassels. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Yay, boo, it's lots of fun to do. If you like it, holla yay. If you don't, you holla boo.
We've managed to fit a lot into this week's show, and I thank you for being here. Again, if you enjoy what we're doing here, tell a friend, tell some people, invite them to the Facebook group. I love doing this, and what was really cool was at the Dungeon Wrestling show this past weekend, I actually met people who listen to the show, not just from Calgary, but from all over Western Canada. In fact, Richard Brown, good buddy, who lives in Manitoba, came out to Calgary for the Dungeon show. He just happened to be in the area and is a huge Bret Hart fan and the like. So came for the Dungeon show, had a great time, and also great listeners. Craig Usher, I know, was there. A bunch of other members of the Celebrate Wrestling family in attendance. Of course, Mitch and Dimitri and I had a blast together. And please, again, if you haven't heard that story between Mitch, Dimitri, Bret, it was hilarious. So that's on the alternate commentary table. But now we go through some of your thoughts on AEW's latest pay-per-view offering in the form of WrestleDream. Not a ton of comments on this. In fact, the one thing I did hear from a lot of people is that they were actually watching the show this morning because either the timing of the Saturday night or the length of the show. You know, you get that window when you buy off of some of the websites so you can watch for a bit. Or, let's be honest, you're finding highlights or other ways to watch it. But either way, tons of ways to find out what happened on AEW's WrestleDream. And the biggest moment for me was definitely this. Let's get to your thoughts, though. Zach Brown says, I will give one full yay from start to finish. I enjoyed the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express. I feel it was the best Jack Perry has looked in years. World title match continued to build Hangman, and Joe's turn will hopefully bring a fresh coat of paint to his character. Zach also feels that the main event was actually tamer than what's normally expected from AEW, but the match was intense and told a great story. The appearance of Sting put a smile on my face. Other matches or finishes help build towards the next pay-per-view, and I'm already looking forward to it. AEW continues to deliver on pay-per-views. He does say the only negative was the end time of 12:30 in the morning for him. Yeah, that's definitely the thread of complaints I've heard about this show. That's the only big one that's coming across. Blaine Vandergrain says there were more hits than misses, so I'll say yay. I was kind of thrown off by the pre-show just bleeding into the main card, though that was a fantastic opening match. Yeah, you know, and Dave talked about it a bit. That used to be an old tactic, right? And to be honest, there are some indie shows, especially now, that they'll do like a pre-show VIP thing, and they'll have it finish as the doors open for the people with the regular tickets so they can kind of see, oh, look what you missed out on, right? So it was kind of that mentality, I feel, going into the pay-per-view, which was a smart story. It was a way to go. Blaine continues, the story I was most hyped about was Statlander versus Tony, and I'm glad that it delivered. Hopefully, this puts Stat in the upper echelon of talent and not someone who they're just fattening up to spoon feed to Mercedes. I still don't know. I talked about this on the ACT. I think that if Stat drops the title to Mercedes, that sets up Tony, Mercedes 2, and Tony still comes out on top. So, I mean, Statlander might be in the good soldier position there, but at the same time, I mean, I'm happy she's getting that run right now. Finally, from Blaine, as for the main event, I don't so much have a problem with excessive violence. I understand that's the theme of AEW, and I'm fine with it, but I prefer not to see things that are going to make me want to vomit. There's a line between violent and disgusting, and I feel they've crossed it a lot lately. He does have some more comments there. His last line, though, is let's stick with wrestling. So that's totally fair. Devin Axtman says, definite yay. First, I loved how they started the show with action. Very unique. Wish they did Dynamite like that. They've tried it. If you remember, especially in the immediate pandemic era, right? They would start Dynamite. They'd have guys, and WWE's done this too. Well, they'll have guys like fighting for no reason in the middle, but I don't mind joining a match in progress, actually. You know, you don't get the entrances and stuff, but you're already seeing, okay, we're into something. He continues, all the important matches delivered, really enjoyed the tag matches, and it seemed like they're putting a renewed focus on the trios division. Yeah, we talked about this with the Hurt Syndicate. Chris and Tony was great, and I like the new direction for Joe. Not a huge fan of I Quit matches, and I could do without the skewers. Yep, with you. But at least they worked it different from WWE, and they didn't ask the guy 500 times if he wanted to quit. I was surprised with that a little bit. Just a little bit, because that is kind of the thing of the I Quit match, is that you got to hear the guy say I quit. So I'm sure they've got it on audio somewhere on the tape of Moxley tapping out or submitting to the Scorpion Deathlock, but we didn't actually hear it all that audibly well. Different strokes for different folks. Joe Aguinaldo was still midway watching it when he made his comment. He wasn't expecting much from the card, but everything he's seen has been pretty entertaining. Steve Whiteman, a little long, but overall a yay from me. Most of the matches delivered, and it's always great to see Sting! Sorry, I had to do it that time again. And finally, Craig Usher. So far, only watched the first half of the PLE as I worked last night, but I would give it a yay. Some great action matches. I really enjoyed Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express for what it was, even though I thought I would. Even more than I thought I would, I should say. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the match was great. It's all fine. Am I really going to believe there's $500,000 at ringside, though? Really? In a duffel bag? Like, come on. Come on. I'd take that duffel bag and run for my life. Craig continued to say, kind of glad I've not seen Mox versus Darby yet, as I am, as much of a fan I am of them. I think as wrestlers, I am so over the overwhelming violence and garbage and will probably skip that match, not to taint my overall viewpoint of the PLE. Wow. That's interesting. That's interesting because that's what I've been saying I've been at. Like, look, I know both guys can wrestle. I know they can. I've seen it. But it's just the cartoony amount of real violence that happens. And what happens in that match, look, spoiler alert, the aquarium drowning spot, yeah, not cool. Not cool. Craig does close with unrelated double yay for the Dungeon Wrestling show on Friday with an outstanding card and their best show yet. Riddle is a talented professional and hope to see him back in the dungeon. Yes, we're going to talk more about Matt Riddle. In fact, we are likely going to talk to Matt Riddle in the future. And I'm very interested to have this conversation with him. Like I said, the guy I dealt with at the show, total pro. I know there's stuff going on in his life, but at the same time, you know what? I'd rather he speak for himself because that's what we do here. We try and give everybody a platform. Have your say, right? I'm not saying I'm with or against anything other than pro wrestling and us loving it for what it is. That is the show this week, my friend. Hope you enjoyed it. Please tell somebody about it. And we'll be back with you next week. Also, this week, I wanted to let you know that a very special episode of McGuire on Wrestling is going to be airing on CKXU, one of the radio stations that supports us. And it's going to be a wrestling music special. Check the Facebook page for airtimes on that. And I'll see if I can somehow clip it online. But let's face it, there's a lot of copyright infringements in this. So probably not going to make the podcast feed. But it will be on the radio because we can do that sort of thing. All right, until next week, my friend, CelebrateWrestling.com is where you can support us. Thank you for listening and letting me do what I do. Until next time, play safe, drive safe. Be seen ya.
McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.